Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'd like to start off by asking you a little bit about your experiences with the Genet as it was, Fonteyn as it now is, competition. So can you tell me a little bit about how did you come to participate in the competition in the first place? What drew you to participating?
It was a while ago now, but it's still quite clear in my mind actually, because it was such an incredible experience. It very, very special. I guess as a young dancer doing my RAD exams, and that was the first syllabus I learned, that was always the, the goal at the end of everything, to sort of hear each year about how the awards had gone and who got the medals. And I used to read about it in Dance Australia. So it had this sort of mythical feeling for me as I was growing up. So when I finally got to the Australian Ballet School, and I finished my advanced while I was there, and I was 15 at the time. Galen Stock was the director of the Australian Ballet School at that point. She was an amazing teacher as well as director, and she took a group of students from the Australian Ballet School, including myself, to London for the Genet Awards. And it was quite special because that was when she was leaving the Australian Ballet to go and take over the Royal Ballet School. So we were her last group.
If my father's job hadn't moved us to Australia when I was a kid, when I was 12, I never would have been exposed to RAD, because that's basically how it all happened. And I'm so grateful for it now. It was actually under the guidance of Mignon Furman, who thought it would be a very good experience for me, and it sure was, on so many levels.
Well, I mean, I'd been aware of the Genet for a long time. One of my biggest idols was Stephen McRae, and I was aware of him having competed in the Genet in Sydney. And obviously I'm from Sydney, so at the time I was very well aware that what a prestigious competition it was. And I'd always heard how wonderful it was to just get coaching from different people. So I guess my expectations were this kind of bringing together of people from all over the world, everybody at the same level of training, and the same discipline of training as well, everybody having done the same exam and the same work, but then being able to apply that in a performance way by learning some solos, working with a choreographer, and just generally getting some performance experience. So I guess my expectations were that it would just be a brilliant way to build up my performing experience, build up some repertoire, learning a few more solos, and have the input of coaches, as well as being able to look at people of my age from around the world and see what everybody was up to, which I think is always a really healthy thing.
And so after I passed my solo seal, then myself and my mom, who's my teacher, we decided, well, let's go for the Genet. And that actually worked out really well, because the year I did the Genet, it was in London in 2005.
I left South Africa, moved to England, and I'm training at the English National Ballet School. And this was my second year at the school. And so the Adlin Genet at the time was then going to happen in South Africa, in Cape Town. You know, it's not in Joburg or in any other city in South Africa. It's in my hometown, you know. And I remember thinking, oh my God, if I don't do this, it's just going to be weird. Like, I have to do it. I feel like I need to redeem myself. I feel like I need to show what I've learned in England in the past year or two, and that kind of refinement that I gained from English National Ballet School.
And it was my first time going overseas on a plane, and so that was pretty exciting. I had to get a passport, and I think we stayed in Putney in this really like cute little hotel, and arrived on Christmas Eve, and I think it was snowing, so I was just beside myself with excitement.
I mean, I was 16, 17 when I did the competition, so I was basically just doing what I was being told and trying to do my best I could. And my parents were also very supportive of this new world that they were suddenly part of. So Black Swan was the solo, and I was lucky enough to come to New York City and train with David Howard for a month. I was able to take class with him, with his professional level classes every day, and work with him on that solo.
I'd never really worked on a variation properly at that point because I was only 15, and it was a really, really good experience. Even just the whole rehearsal period leading up to the competition was just as strengthening, and I learned so much from that, as well as then flying over and competing in London. It's always interesting trying to do a variation when you just come out and you don't have the whole story leading into things. So I think the big thing I learned about Giselle when I was younger from Galen was that it was a solo where you were dancing for Albrecht and your mother, and she really explained like where they were on the stage in the ballet. And so I think because that was sort of my first variation I did on stage, it was the first time I had the concept of not just performing for the audience in the front, like I was performing for the world around me.
For myself, I just had no idea what to expect from the competition. I had no prior knowledge in terms of being able to go to the competition to see it. So I really did go to the Genet in London with an open mind. And I think that's a really good thing to have happened to me, actually. It worked in my favor because I guess I didn't have that sort of built up fear of knowing what it was going to be like.
But I think once we got into class and, you start moving and there's a teacher with familiar language and, you put your hand on the bar, which is the same in any part of the world, you feel really united. And I think the beauty of the Genet is that it's not just a competition where you do a solo and that's it. It's based on classes, and I remember throughout the whole week feeling more and more comfortable and just enjoying the different teachers and finding it. It was more about the experience of learning during the coaching that we got, and watching other dancers was so important.
Having done a lot of competitions and going to Genet, it was quite easy, and I think it was more exciting. I was just so excited to have made it to the finals. So I think that sort of overtook the feelings of fear or worry about doing a performance on stage.
It's funny because nerves are sort of necessary, I think, to help you get to that level of performance that will push you to be probably able to achieve things that you didn't think you could do. So I guess I've learnt to actually understand the feeling when it starts to come over me. And for me, it's always in the wings just before you go on. I'm like, oh, this is that feeling, but it's natural. It's good. Your body is doing this to prepare you for, an explosion of energy that you're about to give on stage.
Managing nerves is just part of what we do. It's just part of every single time you step on stage. It's going to feel a little bit different. And my way of dealing with those skills is just to probably have a bit of peace and quiet before a performance, and just go over things in my head. I'm not a physical preparer, should I say. I'm more internal. I just like to think in a quiet moment to myself. I remember one of the most amazing things that helped me cope with that at the Genet specifically was having the pianist on stage performing with us. It was almost like you could bounce off another person. When you're doing a solo, it's just you, and it can be quite lonely. You can feel quite vulnerable at times, but that the pianist and the music was right there in that back corner, and knowing they were right there watching you and you could almost watch them, that felt quite comforting. And I remember feeling more confident having that.
An amazing treat because it really changes everything. It changes the atmosphere as opposed to recorded music.
The music's so important. I think that can just drive you and lift you when you're so tired in a big ballet. It can just elevate your energy. But yeah, I think the musicality feeds your dynamics, and then that feeds the technique, and it's all really entwined. It's entwined in your artistry and your technique. There's nothing that's separate. It should all be one.
I will never forget having the opportunity to perform at Subtle as Well as Theatre in London. I'd been, as I mentioned earlier, it was my first year living in London, and I'd been to actually see Birmingham Royal Ballet perform there. And obviously at this time in 2010, I didn't know that I'd end up dancing with them, but I'd watched various shows of them at that theatre. And then when the final of the Genet was there, it just felt incredible to be there, but it was incredibly nerve-wracking as well. But it's quite strange now. Every time we go back to Sadler's Wells twice a year, I still cannot walk in without thinking of the Genet and all the experiences I had, and all the memories come flooding back every time we perform there. So that's quite lovely for me.
I do remember sneaking on stage. I guess I can say this now because maybe I won't get in trouble now, but I remember sneaking on stage with Robert Curran, who ended up being having a very long, illustrious career as a principal with Australian Ballet. He won the silver, I think, that year. We snuck on stage and we marked through the Black Swan pas de deux together because he was doing Black Swan for his solo. So we thought it'd be fun to get on stage and pretend like we were big ballet stars.
After every round of the final day, I remember running back to the dressing room to ring my mum in Australia to let her know how it had gone, because there was no way of her following along with it. I remember some of the other boys thinking that I was a little bit crazy at the time, but she was very thankful for the updates. And I think even by the end of the day, it was the middle of the night here or something ridiculous. But now looking back, I hope that it was endearing, but I think at the time I was probably being laughed at.
I'd always really hoped I could get to the final and perform the variation I'd worked on. And so to me, that was a big thing. And I just wanted to dance my best without letting my nerves overwhelm me.
Definitely did not expect to win. I felt like a real outsider in that I was maybe one of the first Americans ever to even participate in this competition. And so I was just thrilled to be participating it was a dream come true. But except I didn't actually dream that I was going to win, because that was so far out of my realm of imagination. And so the fact that I did was completely mind-boggling to me. And I'm so grateful for that experience.
Is there anything particular the competition gave you that sort of helped you when you became a professional dancer, or any sort of little extra things that maybe you got out of participating in the competition?
With it being in London, each stage of the competition was held at a different venue and a different theatre. And that's really helped me move into a professional career, especially into a touring company, because week after week we're in a different theatre, adjusting to different stages. And I felt the Genet was already testing your capability to do that. It was already allowing you to learn the skills of adjusting to different sizes, of doing class in a different venue each day, of feeling totally different with the size of the audience in each venue. So with each stage of the competition, I felt like you grow in that way as well. And that's something that I've been able to transition into my professional career. So
I don't remember it feeling like a competition or anyone acting, in that sort of typical ballet competition way. Everyone was so modest and kind and helpful, and it was a really wonderful time. And I know it's funny to say that now, but it really was. And looking back, I don't actually have any negative memories about it. And it was just a really nice time.
We all have a lot of teachers and work with a lot of choreographers, and as life goes on as a dancer, you have to be really open to as many different forms of information as possible. So yeah, I think it was I probably felt like I was meant to be pleasing all the teachers, and then I guess I learnt through that it wasn't about pleasing the teachers, it was about taking on their information and using it to help my dancing. So yeah, I think I learnt a lot of life skills as well as literally technical skills and tips and hints from such great coaches.
I think it was amazing taking part, having the opportunity to perform 3 different styles of solo, because you often prepare the big classical solos, and as important as they are, there are so many more obscure classical solos out there that you might not be aware of in your training. And then also working with a choreographer and having it created on you, something in the space, something just for that competition. That's pretty rare. And that gives you the opportunity to show off your skills and be versatile, which I think is a really important thing in today's art world.
To learn the choreography, apply it, get the coordination, get the musicality and the style that the choreographer wants. There's quite a lot to do in a week.
Being a fast learner is probably one of the biggest assets you can take into a company. If being a professional dancer, one of the most important things is being able to be adaptable and to listen to corrections and choreography very, very quickly. If you can do that, you become very useful to a company. And that would probably have been my first experience at the Genet, learning something as quickly as that. I mean, it must be a 2 or 3 day period before we perform it for the first time, which is not very long at all to learn a solo, and almost to coach yourself. You have the choreographer working with you, but there's a whole room of people learning that solo. So it's a real lesson in getting to know your body very quickly, what feels best on you, while performing the choreography exactly how they want it, but adding a bit of yourself to it as well.
I think my advice would be to firstly pat yourself on the back and congratulate yourself for getting so far. And it really is an accomplishment. It's sort of, another box ticked, and really taken everything from the competition, from the moment that you get there, the moment that you meet the other competitors. You've made it so far, and also you've all made it together, and you've trained in the same sort of syllabus for so long. And I think it's definitely a point to sort of, congratulate yourself and thank your teachers, thank your parents, guardians, and all of those people who have supported you along the way. I think that's definitely a most important thing to do, is to not forget those who even introduced you to ballet and to this art form.
You've been training for so long for this competition. By the time you get there, you need to just soak up as much information as you can, be friendly and enthusiastic, ask questions if you don't know, because the people that are surrounding you are the people that you're probably going to see once you become a professional dancer. You're kind and enthusiastic, and you show your personality when you're on stage.
People can slip, their shoe will fly off, people can, have a misstep, some fluke thing might happen that's never happened before. That's not necessarily what everyone's going to remember if you, as the young dancer, goes out there and just expresses how much you love dance. I mean, what can you lose?
I think that the performance aspect of the whole week is so important. I think, performing even in the classes that they teach you, the rehearsals that you have, I think that is very important, because it shows your professionalism and also dedication and your interest in being at the competition and being there and wanting to win and do your best. So don't forget about the sort of performance aspect and how you carry yourself day to day. And also interact with the other dancers, talk to them. You will be surprised how many people come back into your life. So be nice to everyone. And it really doesn't hurt to be nice, especially in this current climate and what's happening around the world. We all need to spread that extra bit of niceness.
Don't worry about the competition aspect. Just take so much joy in witnessing people from all over the world performing. Like, work with them and learn from your peers and enjoy the amazing coaching, because as you say, that's such a wonderful opportunity to receive coaching from such esteemed people of the dance world.
I think maybe from my experiences, it's just realize that this is a platform for you to showcase your talent and what you're good at, but your talent as an individual. So it's important that you show your personality on top of what you can actually execute in terms of steps, because that's okay. But actually what people get drawn to is someone who's able to go on stage and they can get connected to that person because they are engaging as an overall artist but not because they are able to execute steps that are incredible.
I think that, yeah, the power of like imagery and things in your mind too, that sort of links the brain and the body. I don't think technique and artistry should ever be separated. It's like, I don't think in class you should be like, oh, I'm just going to work on my legs today. Like you should, like artistry is your pulmon, and it's the way you turn your head and you look to the side. It's all the little things, and even the posture of yourself. So I think too, like sometimes having a feeling inside or a motivation can actually help your technique, and you can end up doing things that you didn't think you could before, or maybe you were struggling with, but you just have the right thought and you maybe think about something else that's more to do with the character, and suddenly things start to work a lot better. So it's very interesting the power the mind has over the body.
I think if I could go back and talk to my younger self 10 years ago competing, I would just say to be brave and take more risks, enjoy every moment and take as much from all those different people as you can.
I then joined Northern Ballet Company, and that's when I understood, oh, okay, this is the type of artist I am. This is the type of company that I needed to be in, because I didn't quite know that, I'm passionate about storytelling, and that's something that's deeply embedded in my culture. We tell stories. Dance and music is a part of what we do every day, part of our rituals. And those are the things that I was able to actually highlight at Northern Ballet Company. And David has been so great at giving me opportunities to make sure those things come across, and I'm able to execute them and show them to the audiences.
It's a very special vocation to embrace in one's life, and just try to be as observant and learn from everyone, and not just from watching them, but from getting to know people, and just always try to learn, just be open.
I would say absolutely do not hesitate to enter the Fonteyn that it is now. I think it is the most amazing experience. I think to compete in a really healthy competition environment is key in growing up and learning what type of dancer you are, learning how to be more confident with the type of dancer you are, and to have the experience of having coaching from so many different teachers, and even just as simple as having live musicians play for you all the time, I think is invaluable. It really is invaluable. And my advice is get out there, have fun. In any competition you compete in, show who you are. Don't worry about whatever everybody else is doing. Show what makes you unique, because that's the way you're going to move forward in your career. If you try to be like anybody else, then you'll probably end up slightly dull, and you won't be the dancer that you were meant to be.
It has been a year of resilience for everyone, and I hope that we have just as many young, keen people continuing to join in the dance world and the RAD next year, and to keep that focus. And remember, this is like amazing training for the self-discipline and dedication you have to have through your whole career. It's there's so many different distractions in life now, and to do ballet is really a very mindful, focused activity. So I think everything that we're learning this year about having to be more contained, quieter, more focused is hopefully going to serve all the students well in the future.
So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, and for being generous with your time on this. I really appreciate it.